Just realized I haven't worn this shirt in years. But today, I guess, maybe it was a sign from above that this was the time. So there's been a lot of chatter about Adam Driver's recent comments about him pitching an idea for a Ben Solo movie, The Hunt for Ben Solo, which was set after The Rise of Skywalker, and Disney turned it down, saying that they didn't understand how Ben Solo was still alive, even though Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm were on board with the idea. People like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and so on. I'm getting right to the point here, but when I saw that, I thought, really? They actually considered that? At first I thought, well, why don't we set it before the events of the sequel trilogy, showing us how Kylo Ren rose to power? I think that would be a really interesting idea. We could have seen like a parallel of how similar yet different Ben Solo was to Anakin Skywalker, his grandfather, and how they both rose to power as dark side Force users in both iterations of the Empire. You don't really need to hear me talk about how Star Wars has been doing for the last several years since The Rise of Skywalker. It's like they're trying to do something that's not too controversial, but go into certain areas that are not going to lead anywhere. Whereas Marvel, even though they've had some problems as of late, they are at least trying to course correct and set their sights on Doomsday and Secret Wars. Shows like Andor, Skeleton Crew, which I still have yet to watch. Acolyte, I've only watched the pilot episode. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. But let's be real here. Star Wars is in a really weird spot right now. We got the Mandalorian movie coming out next year, and the trailer actually looked kind of interesting. I thought it did. But when I heard this idea for a Ben Solo movie, where it was set after the events of Rise of Skywalker, and somehow he came back from the dead, somehow Kylo Ren returned. I'm sorry about the pun, I couldn't resist. I still think that criticism of that line of Palpatine returning is overblown, neither here nor there. Star Wars is no stranger really to characters returning from the dead. Darth Maul came back and a lot of fans didn't like it. Now in hindsight, they all seem to really like it when they saw what they were able to do with him. Palpatine, well, we all know how that turned out. You can check out my Rise of Skywalker review I posted earlier this year at the very beginning of the year. I didn't really like his return, but I was able to shrug it off and move on. It was just the lack of context of his return that ruined it for me. And to be honest with you, with Ben Solo dying, I think I understand the logic where it would be really hard for him to try to right the wrongs that he committed, because in the eyes of the galaxy, he's seen as the new Darth Vader. Not everybody was going to be sold on that. And of course, the Reylo fans were upset. I didn't really care either way. I think there was definitely something there, but I'm veering into multiple sidebars on this one. But to be honest with you, I think this could actually have really benefited Star Wars. It could have shown us a side of the sequel trilogy that I think it desperately needs. We have The Mandalorian, which is setting the stage for how the First Order rose to power, mostly in Season 3. And in outside material, there are some connective tissue that's being established with various planets in Jedi Fallen Order, where the Illume planet that Cal Kestis goes to create his new lightsaber, it's the same planet that Starkiller base molds into. Canto Bight is mentioned in the Season 2 Mandalorian, and I've heard some people say that this Ben Solo movie could be bridging the gap or a tease for what's to come in the Rey Solo movie, whenever that may or may not come out. And of course, there's the discussion with him somehow back from the dead, or not really dead. He might be in purgatory. It's a side of the Force that we haven't really fully explored in the movies. Books and comics and animation's one thing, if animation has touched on that, and the video games in their own ways have touched on that as well. I would be totally down for the idea of exploring like a afterlife of some kind with the Star Wars universe. Clearly in that universe there is some sort of hereafter. And with Ben Solo maybe not fully ready to go to the afterlife just yet, maybe it's one of those things where if you read a lot of near-death experience stories, the people who experience those are often told from someone that they see on the other side, or at least in the middle between here and the hereafter. It's not your time yet, you have to go back, there's still some things you gotta do. Maybe it would have been a situation where Ben Solo could have had that type of experience where he realized, maybe I have to go back and try to repair some of the damage I've done. I've heard people say that maybe Rey and Finn could have been on this hunt when they learned that he was somehow back. And it's a real bummer because besides Luke and Han, Kylo Ren is my favorite Star Wars character. Even some of the most hardcore sequel haters can admit that they like him. He was the reverse Darth Vader. He's naturally light, but wanted to be in the dark. Anakin was naturally dark, but wanted to be in the light. And when you really get into the business side of this whole thing, as I mentioned earlier, Lucasfilm and Disney are seemingly so afraid to upset the Star Wars fan base. Stop being so scared of pissing them off. Look, I understand that the fan base is really rabid and they have a huge influence on how the movies are made. Why else did George Lucas give it up all that time ago? Because he got trashed on for years. Now all of a sudden people wish that it was back in his hands. We're in the same spot that we were in 12 years ago or so. No, 13 years ago before he gave it up. You don't need to hear me say it again, but you got nobody else to blame but yourselves.
I think anybody that's like Kathleen Kennedy and like Disney, I think you're so dead wrong Sure. I don't think you can be more wrong
Yeah.
about who's to blame for the state of Star Wars.
That being said, the studios need to get their act together. If it were me, I would just change things at the top, move some things around, put people in charge who are not afraid to take chances. Or somebody at least has a respect for the material and knows what they're doing. I know Sean Chandler would not agree with me on this, but Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau I think would be the best successors. Even if they don't always get it right creatively with Star Wars as of late, I think I'd rather have it in their hands than at the very top. And Bob Iger is the one who canceled this project in the first place, and he has no problem canceling Jimmy Kimmel criticizing a certain political leader. Suffice it to say, guys, I'm tired and I'm sad with this whole Star Wars situation, because listening to certain people this morning, I remember just why I don't like talking about Star Wars as much anymore. There's a couple of good ones out there that I've decided to listen to, but they're very few and far between. Now, does this mean this movie could gain some traction? Possibly. If there's enough of a desire for it, the people do have a certain type of influence. If Star Wars can influence the studios to make the movies a certain way, I don't see why they can't do the same thing for this one. We heard for years, release a Snyder Cut, and look how that turned out. Will that be the same thing in this situation? Who the hell knows? If it were me,
Go for it.
Do it.
Just do it!
even if it turns out to be a flop, why not? That's all I really got to say about this thing today. Thanks, guys, for hearing me out. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on this situation. Hit the like and subscribe button if you'd like to see more from me. And as always, see you guys in the next one.